Welcome to Spain, welcome to the launch of KTM's new 990 RCR, and welcome to a kind of update or a reintroduction of Superbike's YouTube channel. So hopefully here at Superbike we're going to do a little bit more of this, but what better way to kick it off with the new KTM. Now this is a bike that has been highly anticipated because we saw this bike around 2 years ago. I saw it in a kind of customized, disguised black and white zebra lookalike bike, and I couldn't wait to ride it. But obviously we all know the history and the troubles that KTM have had, but they are back on track. And a lot of that will depend on the success of this bike. So let's start off with what KTM have done. For us, they are clearly confident in their bike because they've given us 2 full days. So we've got 1 day on the road, 1 day on track. Yesterday was the road side, today is the track side. If you think it's a 990 Duke with bodywork on, you couldn't be more wrong. It's got completely different frame, different swinging arm, different offset. The engine is more or less the same with different fueling, but that's kind of where the similarities lie. In terms of what it has 128 horsepower, 102 newton meters of torque. That torque, according to KTM, is class leading, and the power, according to KTM, is class leading. But here it gets a little bit awkward, because there are bikes in this class that are not Euro 5 plus, therefore are not actually for sale, that have more power. J6R 750 and an MV 800. But we'll digress that. This is going up against the Euro 5 plus bikes, which is the Panigale V2 and Yamaha's R9. And a weird twist and turn and bizarre fact is the last time I rode a Panigale V2 was here, and the last time I rode a Yamaha R9 was here. So it's very interesting that KTM have brought us here to Seville to kind of top trumps or go straight against head to head. But first, let me tell you what it's like on the road. It looks like a mini MotoGP bike. It looks aggressive. It looks quite angry. If it was a person in a bar, you wouldn't want to spill his drink. It looks quite aggressive. So I was expecting it to be quite solid, quite firm, unforgiving, and quite angry. And it's kind of not. It's very usable, it's very easy to ride, the riding position is quite roomy, the seat is not a plank of wood or an old skateboard, it's actually got some cushioning, and the suspension is actually quite soft in the standard settings. As you'd expect from KTM, it's WP, front and back, fully adjustable, but on the road, I never changed a thing. I left it completely standard and really enjoyed an accessible road ride. What the big highlight for me was the 8.8 TFT dash, which is absolutely huge, and the new switchgear. Now in the past, KTM have sent me nasty letters and refused to send me Christmas presents because I've been a bit critical of their switchgear and their dash, but not this time, so I'll be expecting a pair of socks in the post. The dash is lovely. It's really simple, really easy to use, color coded, so you can see what you're doing at first glance. You can make a real opinion very quickly. On some dashes, you have to kind of look down, you take the eye off the road, you're trying to work out what's happening. But with this dash, you can switch modes really quickly, quick glance, mode is changed. Want to turn the traction control down while you're moving? Quick look, quick change, quickly done. And if you want to turn off the anti-wheelie control, you can do that. And if you switch it off and switch it back on again, it stays off. It's all saved, it's all done. We've got multiple rider modes, 4 levels of ABS, which includes a new Supermoto Plus, so you can impress your friends trying to be a hero. On the road, to summarise, I thought it was going to be a lot more aggressive and a lot harder than it is. As a road bike, it's fantastic. It's a brilliant road bike. If I was going to be critical, the mirrors that are obviously not fitted to this bike do really great reflections of your elbows, but very little else. So you've got to kind of twist your elbows around to see what's behind you, which isn't very good when you're doing 200 kilometers an hour in Spain and there's blue lights behind you, but I'll digress. And I could do with a little bit more engine braking. And the engine braking is quite free, feels like a 2-stroke, so you run into corners a few times, but you can't change the engine braking on the standard bike, although you can on some of the competition. But that's been really finical. If the only fault that you can find is mirrors aren't so great and the engine brake is a little bit weak, then it is a fantastic road bike. Would I be happy to go do some big miles on this? Yes. Would I be happy to ride this on the road all day long? We had a long day in the saddle yesterday and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The only disadvantage, I guess, is pillions are going to have to be extremely brave. So that moves us onto the track, which I know really well because I've ridden the Ducati here and I've ridden the R9. Now, I was slightly concerned last night after riding it on the road because generally speaking, if a bike works really well on the road, it's not going to work so well on the track. And KTM historically have built great track bikes that haven't worked so well on the road. So because it worked so well on the road, I was a little bit unsure. What we've done is fitted Michelin slicks, which are track day ready slicks. They're not full World Superbike slicks. We didn't have tyre warmers. It's out of pit lane without warmers. And it was a little bit interesting at first, but once we got some heat into the bike and into the tyres, then it started to come into its own. All that usability and easy access that we had on road is amplified on the track. There's corners here that I was definitely using second gear on the Ducati and on the R9, and now I'm using third. The torque is low down, it's user-friendly, it's manageable, it's quite soft, and it's easy to put in a reasonably good lap time. So I started off in the standard street mode, then moved to the sport mode, then moved to custom mode, where I turned off the anti-wheelie and played around with the traction, tried the Supermoto Plus, found a setting that I was happy with, and then we got the guys at KTM to wheel some spanners and just add a little bit more support from the suspension. Once I'd done that, the bike came into its own. But I deliberately wanted to ride the bike in standard form, in standard street mode, to feel what it was like. It's usable, it's easy, it's friendly. So any relative novice riding this bike for the first time on track won't be intimidating despite the angry looks. Once into sport, it comes more alive, it comes more fun, it comes more aggressive. And then once you tweak the suspension, the steering started to feel lighter, it started to feel more accurate, and I was able to cut into the lap times to a relevant amount. At the end of the day, KTM put on a little fun race, which was absolutely hysterical and hugely rewarding and great fun. And again, that showed how much fun this bike is and its spectrum of ability. So in the morning, I'm riding in street mode, I'm riding relatively steady, like you would on a track day, and at the end of the day, I'm pushing for a lap time and trying to find the limits. The limits on the rear, you can really feel the rear moving, you can really feel the rear sliding. There's a lot of feedback from the rear. The only downside, and I wouldn't say it's a downside, it's an 8 out of 10, I didn't have absolute one-to-one connection with the front end. Now, I think a lot of that is the fact that we were running track day ready slicks, not kind of slicks that you would get from, say, Bridgestone or Pirelli that have preheated and need tyre warmers. These are just out-the-box kind of track day tyres than full race-on slicks. But it was still enough to drag my elbow on the odd apex and show off and have some fun. But it'll be interesting to see what this bike is like with some proper tyres ridden really aggressive. Because I'm really old, and I mean this in a complimentary way, it reminds me a little bit of 996, 998 Ducatis. Because when I rode those bikes, they never felt quick, but when I looked at the lap times, they were quick. And that seems to sum up the KTM really well. I've lapped here in Seville slightly quicker on the KTM than I had on the Ducati, but I'm sure the Ducati felt faster and more evolving. But that's maybe due to the bigger capacity and the more torque. In the UK, price is going to come in at 13,499, and then you're going to have to play with the demo pack. So that means you get your 1,000 kilometers, and then you decide what rider aids you want and what you don't want. I know in the UK, that's a little bit controversial. Some people love it, some people hate it. But I'll leave you to have that discussion and that argument below. What I can say is that KTM needed to produce something good. They needed to come out the blocks. As a road bike, it's above and beyond what I expected. It's a really good road bike. And on track, although it's not throwing TVs out of hotel windows and driving Rolls Royces into swimming pools, it's not a rock and roll star, it is exceedingly good and very fast and easy to ride. The next big test for us, hopefully at Superbike, is when we put it against the competition. The obvious one, as I say, is Ducati and Yamaha, so hopefully we can go somewhere sunny, hopefully we can get some quality tyres and get those three bikes together. As usual, if you've got any technical questions, you want to know that the offset is it 30 or 33 mil, or you want to know what the weight is and the ready to race weight, and you want to know the wheelbase and all those silly little facts that nobody really cares about, please fire some questions below. Please subscribe and enjoy the video. It's been a tough assignment, but I'm glad I've done it.